Well, this is the Long War. I'm Rob Bear, and joining me once again are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher and Matt Aarons. What's up, guys?
Yo, dog, great to be here.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
So, well, we do have a special guest tonight, and turns out Matt's a big winner chicken dinner. If you can't if you can't tell by all that hardware behind him, um, I'm I'm kind of well, I'm really excited to hear a lot about how you hobby because I think we all are set in our ways, but um, hearing it from another prolific hobbyist would be really cool to kind of compare notes.
First
Kind
off,
of like
let's get it out of the way. What did you just achieve?
So I just came back from Worlds in Atlanta. I placed third for best painted at Atlanta event, which is insane because you have some phenomenal painters there from literally all over the world. And
right.
my result from getting third was that I got overall for the ITC. So it's my third time winning the ITC hobby track for the entire year. So very blessed, very blessed.
Plus the Adepticon teams this year. What did you get in our event? Best
I got best
best
general,
general.
along
But you've won it a couple of times too already. But
I've won
so
best
big year.
painted at Long War. I've won best overall, and I've won best general. But again, winning best general at a friendly event just doesn't always sit right with you, because you're like, oh man, like
Well,
I
it's
should be
funny
bringing.
because if you to win our event because of the way that hobby scores and everything is, you kind of have to max your hobby score
hmm
and your battle score and your painting score, right? So
Yeah,
the difference between typically someone like you coming in with the best general, and the guy who won, and the guy who got best painted is 1 point in a sportsmanship score. So
yeah,
it's like that close, right? So, but you've also like like tripled best painteds in a year at different events. Like, you're one of the most prolific hobbyists of the modern era. And we use Sean Naden as an example, right? A paragon of
oh
Red Man to like hold ourselves to as like when he came out and he swept everyone. And I remember last time I had you on the show, you were like, if only, I was doing it like Sean Naden was. I can think you're kind of getting there, man,
Yeah.
right? You're getting pretty damn close, and you're bringing home a lot of hardware from these events, and you're the 3-time ITC Hobby Tracker champion. Walk me through what the season was like to get here, and how ending the season
mhm,
in Atlanta for the first time with GW. How was
mhm.
that?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like your mindset when you start the year a little bit. I remember uh, the first two seasons I was really kind of going for it, and then last year took my foot off the brake a little bit. Still got third, and then this year was kind of like, all right, let's see what kind of manifest. And so it really started with Adepticon. So I don't have a lot of time to go to RTTs, so they're very selective in the events I go. When I say selective, I mean literally six big events a year. So I don't have time to practice, unfortunately, because I'm too busy painting or have other like commitments, and so it's really tough. So I have a big book of what not to do when it comes to being best overall in terms of being best general, because you need the reps. The meta changes so much, you need the reps. So if you're committed to painting, you're like really committed to painting and bringing your best stuff. And I think this year was a little bit different, and then I had most of my Necrons for this year and really leaned into them. I'm like, wait, I actually can get some practice with them. So I think playing them at big events, getting the reps, I slowly got better throughout the year. So at Adepticon, it was absolutely insane. We did the GT. I qualified for the top cut with Necrons very luckily, but I opted out of that to play the Lungwar doubles because that's in my opinion, the crown jewel of Adepticon. But that's my humble opinion because I think it just brings
I don't know about
so many.
that.
It's my opinion because it brings so many people
I mean,
together.
at some point we have to take the compliment and we have to take the critique, because at this point it's a 300-man super major.
It's gonna be more this year, allegedly.
Yeah, it's a 300-man super major that sells out with a waiting list, and the only one in the world
True.
with weighted hobby scores. At some point, we have to take that statement that Matt just made as real life, bro. That's the life we live right now.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
guess the event is bigger than some actual events. Like even though it's inside Adepticon,
yeah, so Matt making top cut, and then like I did that experience. You played your 4 games. No one could take that top cut from you. He wanted to also maximize his enjoyment while also
hmm
going into the long war doubles. So that I would have done the same thing, not even being a long war guy. But it
It's
is.
actually I could go, there's all sorts of like stories, right? All sorts of stories that kind of re-loop in. So I played a guy the round 4 of Adepticon. We both look at each other, both undefeated, saying, "Hey, I really don't want to win this game because if I win it, I might not be able to play Long War tomorrow."
Uh,
Wait, I also want to play Long War tomorrow. So let's just do a good game. We'll see what happens. And he ended up winning.
uh,
And I was like, yes, I can still go Long War, but because I had so many points, I still made the cut. And
mhm.
so we both opted out of the top cut to play in the Long War
That's funny.
genuinely.
2 people, bro.
And
Wow.
it's the Long War is also without being braggadocious, if you will. I think it's the one event that all of my friend groups kind of talk about. Whether it's a group in Buffalo, Northeast, whatever
Mhm.
group it is. Like it's definitely like, hey, teams are always preparing for that because they realize, yeah, you can paint up your army, but it's all about the additional items, the sportsmanship, the theme. They really go heavy into it as opposed to like, hey, we're getting really ready for almost like the
We've
Adepticon team
we've been
tournament.
doing it enough years now, Matt, that we've,
Yeah.
like empirically refined the simplicity of the scores to
Mhm.
this like straight up like player policed mechanic, right? That's the sportsman,
Mhm.
right? Like it's player police. But that's not as important as your more objective scoring based on painting, right? But a lot of people are like, well, isn't painting really subjective? Not if you look at our rubric.
Mhm.
If you look at our rubric, Matt Aarons can max out his hobby. He can max out his painting score, but so can somebody who's like 50 rungs below Matt Aaron in painting talents. They
Mhm.
both can max out their painting score because it's an effort based criteria that
Effort, yeah, yeah.
anyone can achieve a max score. Now, when those two paint armies are next to each other, and I got to make a determining factor on who's got, that's why our score system allows for decimals. Because now Matt's going to get the max score of 0.1, right? So, like, but
Mhm.
ultimately, like, nobody is not on the table to win. That's what's wild about our event. And so, like, Matt has won it. He has the belt. He's won, I think, every award in our event, and so he's one of the most prolific hobbyists. And top 8 cut.
Mhm.
You know, that's crazy, man. And you golden ticketed. Let's not forget
Mhm.
that to be at Worlds. So you are
Yeah.
the Renaissance man right now.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there's a handful of us out there, but we definitely lean one way or the other. It's like we're either really good generals and then we're trying to build our hobby, or we're really good hobbyists trying to get good reps. So it's kind of how do we fall to the middle? But you have also amazing, we talked about Sean Nane, right? Gold standard for phenomenal top 10 player in the world, but also an amazing painter. And then you have Andrew Gagno doing great. Again, he's really pushing the hobby side of it now. He's what, Team America last year, and also he think he won gold at the Capital Paddle at Nova. TG Landing is also really pushing things in a lot of ways. So you have some great players out there that are really up in their hobby, and they have some hobbyists that are like, wait, I actually can like get with enough reps, can hopefully stay along the meta. But I think it's, in my opinion, easier to be a good general and up your hobby score because you just follow a certain person on your tutorials to get you there pretty far to max out rubrics.
It's
But
funny.
to be a
It's funny because
general,
you just listen to a whole bunch of people taking my classes. And I think independently, you and Sean Naden have like been in my Twitch channel
Yeah.
before and been like just donated me $100.
yeah,
like,
Give away the secrets for free.
like they're like,
yeah,
bro.
bourbon's not free, so it's kind of like, hey, I appreciate you what you did, because the videos I watched were back on like YouTube when it was just YouTube. You didn't really have a Patreon back then or a Twitch account to
Oh
donate.
man.
Like,
OG,
yeah, exactly. So those are the old school videos back
bro.
when you
But
were
seeing
doing.
dudes out there like you, like pushing, like it's like, yeah, man, that's the game. That's what we try to do here with this podcast. That's what we try. We were like, oh, bringing hobby back. That was like our catchphrase for years, right, Matt? Like, bring a
Mhm.
hobby back, bring a hobby back, and it's like hobby's back, dude. Like it is, and so
Mhm.
it at this point, it's really just about educating the new people coming into this hobby about how much fun you can actually have at this. Like it's like you could be having more fun. You don't even know it, bro. You don't even know it. You're sleeping on painting. You're sleeping on this. You're sleeping on all of these elements that are just like no hobby brings the same degree of fun. So that's
Yeah,
kind of the education model, right? And like
Mhm.
your story to me is like anecdotal evidence, at least.
it's also like the community itself because you go to an event and you're like, wow, I love that army. How'd you do it? And you explain how you did it. And a year later, see people back at Adepticon and they've done it. And you're like, wait, I remember this army. You upgraded this and this. Like, oh, what?
Yeah.
You're been here. You remember all that? I'm like, of course I do. I love this stuff, you know. And so when you see people at events and and then a year later or 6 months
Mhm.
later at a bigger event, you're like, oh, I see that. And they're like, yeah, I really took what you did. And then you're doing the same thing. Like I hit up people all the time. Like, how did you do that advanced technique that I'm struggling with? And they're like, oh, I did it this way. And now I'm more into like leaning into Golden Demon, so that's a whole different world that'll save a conversation
Oh,
for another.
I'm
But
excited.
Ooh.
I'm excited to interview you after your first Golden Demon entry. That's gonna be
Yeah,
exciting.
it'll
that'll be
take me like
super
10
I was about to
years.
ask you what's next,
Nah.
right? I was about to ask you what's next. There it is. Matt Aaron's is gonna go into competition painting next. So that's exciting for people at home. We can't wait to see what you're doing. Maybe whatever updates we can get on your social medias on your you're just Matt Aaron's on Instagram. Matt Aaron on Instagram, right? Like Matt Dye Aaron.
Yep, Matt Aaron, yeah. So
Yeah. Hey, so real quick, I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but so I think it's funny you said you only play in 6 events. So
mm,
to get your scores, it's the top, is it the top 6
mm.
actual scores? So like you're just raw dogging your
That's
scores
why you
into,
said no RTTs because you can use your
yeah.
top like what
So
top
like
3 RTTs or something like
so
that.
you, that's kind of crazy.
So
Hey,
I got the idea from Siegler actually, because I
that's
think
all he
we
does.
I think we won the ITC for the second year. He literally went to 6 events, and I was like, "Wait, you could do that? You're rolling the dice literally to see if you can make it or not." But yeah, it was 6 events, and so I did that last year just because of a big military commitment here. And so I was like, "All right, well, let me see if I can pull this off again this year."
Hmm.
This year, I had kind of forecasted, man, I'm not going for it. We'll see how the results go. So it's kind of like depending on how well I did, I would determine if I would go to even, 4, 5, 6 events. So I know I was doing Adepticon. I knew I was doing Nova. I'm out here in New York City, so it's kind of a good in between. So I knew I was doing those. I'm like, well, let's see if I can do it. And I fell into a ticket. So maybe I'll backtrack a little bit and it'll show you how I got there real quick. I know we're maybe a little short on time. So Adepticon did the GT, did the long war doubles, got best round rule. Very, very thankful for that. And then we rolled into the team event. And so the team event was kind of this, and I know I covered a little bit. It was kind of what me and a hobby buddy were like, hey, can we get like 2 good players to play with us? Like we really got the painting, we got the hobby, and we got Kyle Trahan, who's a really good player out of Michigan. We're like, all right, we got maybe get another player. And we said, hey, could you maybe like find out if you can find someone else? And like, yeah, let's see, put some feelers out. It's like, hey, I might know a guy. All right, cool. Great. We trust you. So we're just hopping along, theme. And turns out it's Bulger Piles. So we're the best players in the world. So we're like, all right, we'll take them. And we literally just had a blast because with a team tournament, we really, Eric Butters out of Michigan, he was actually out of the Chicago area. He really was like this glue that held us together. So I just killed myself for painting this Necron army.
Mm.
He was helping like with all the theme stuff, and he had 2 great pilots. So we got best general, best painted, and best overall.
Eh.
And so the first time going to the team event, got all 3, and so we defaulted to best overall. But get this, they made a mistake in their computing, and so instead of giving the best painted a score of 100, they gave first 1 point, second 2 points. So it was reversed. So when we caught the mistake, it turns out they gave all the awards to Travis, that guy I played in round 4
Hmm.
from GT 2 days earlier. They had given him this team the award, but in fact they won nothing. And so we felt really bad being like, listen, we're supposed to get those. They give box the Emperor's Children. We got a box of it. And so we felt really bad taking this. We're like, hey, you can just take mine. Like, like I had a great time with you. Like at the GT playing, I saw you a lot, the Long War doubles. And then out here you guys are like trying really hard. Like, and so I just gave away a box because I, one, probably couldn't fly back to New York City with it. And then 2, I was like, no, that's, guess what? Like that team is going to appreciate that box and appreciate it and like probably put it to good use. And so it's just kind of one of those karma things a little bit, but shows how the community, even though there's days later, events later, you may kind of well connect. So that's kind of that Depticon story a little bit, but we really lucked out. We also got second for Armies on Parade, which Adepticon does, which is really cool. But we were burned out. We were just, again, you played how
Hmm.
many teams and in 4 days, you're just maxed out. And then you're also going to Golden Demon, which is a whole separate community of amazing, phenomenal painters. So it's kind of like stimulus overload in a lot of ways. So you burn out. in the best possible way. And then you take a little bit of a break. And then I think the next event was ACO. That's where I won best overall. It was a little bit different because it was a team tournament, and that's where I got my golden ticket. So very lucky to have won it. Because if I don't have that ticket, I don't go to Worlds. If I don't go to Worlds, I don't get a high score to get first.
You
So
didn't get
it's
you needed your 6th score.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I kind of had to kind of work that a lot. What else did I do? So I also went down to Texas, went to a GW event in Dallas, Texas. I wanted to go there for a bit. That was a lot of fun. I think I got like fifth there. Because GW doesn't like my painting style, my Necrons. They think it's too and not to their credit, because it's a very simple canvas in their opinion. And my army paint style is a little fantastical, if you will. It's not anime, but it's very bright. It's very not to their IP, so they're not huge fans with it. So I kind of had to, over the year, go back and change it to actually get a good score eventually. So that was my own
Hmm.
internal. So even from Adepticon, it looks much different, the army, in terms of different color choice, things like that. So, and then what else did I go to? Did that? I did Nova, Battlefield Salvation.
Mm-hmm.
Where else which I got second. So I actually didn't win a single event this year for best painted. Funny enough,
Hmm. But
just so
here
many
you are.
events against so many scores that it kind of worked out. But yeah, I just picked six worlds have been 7 events that kind of lucked out in a lot of ways. It came razor close. Shout out to Kevin Grubbs. He got first at Worlds and he got second for ITC. He was ITC champ last year. And then Drew Johnson out of the Washington State area, he got third. I felt bad because I unfortunately bumped him last year in Las Vegas with the end of the
Hmm.
year standings and taking third, so he got fourth. So this year he got third. So I would have felt terrible if someone bumped him again. So just saying that, but we're all friends. Like we're all messaging each other and being like, "Hey, do this with your army. Hey, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
event, highlight this." And so I really like how the community supports each other. Kind of like what you see in some of the competitive circles with those like cliques that really, you know, kind of push everyone else out and really make themselves better. The hobby, it's like whoever wants in, we're willing to share it. So I think that's a really special aspect of our community. Yeah.
Agreed.
We're definitely spoiled for spoiled for information, uh, products, techniques, miniature games. It's you can do anything out there. It's crazy.
Yeah. Thanks for the update on that. So we're gonna cover some other hobby topics. I already took some Q&As down.
Nice.
Shout out to the chat for that. Update on Wyatt. So I get your show notes out of the way. Wyatt actually texted me today. Said he's
Yeah.
gonna. They said the doctor said a couple weeks, and he'll be healed. But he recently had to explain to the doctors he was leaving on the 26th, no matter what they said. So
Hmm.
he's leaving on the 26th.
Busting them out.
Yeah, his brother's coming to bust him out.
Oh
So
shit.
that's the update. I imagine that's holiday related. But he told
Oh
me
yeah. I guess.
they just wanted him in there for like rehab bullshit. And he's like, I'm just gonna brute force that dude, don't worry. So
Well, there it is.
that's where we're at.
Well, I think we're. I don't know if he's going to be on the show that day, but that's going to be what our last podcast till the new year.
I think the 19th is our last one.
Oh, we said 19th. Yeah, that
Yeah.
probably makes sense because people are traveling on the 26th.
Yeah,
So next week then.
that's right. One more
That's
for the
right.
year.
Yeah.
We'll take December off. We got so do us some news, and then I'll while I correlate these Q&As.
You got the news, or you want me to do the news?
You do the news.
Fine.
I don't know what happens. I know that there was
Yeah,
a
you
preview
do.
and people were upset about it.
Why were people upset?
I'm
Let's hear it.
I'm assuming they're upset about it based on all the AI artwork you were showing me today.
Oh no, that wasn't that.
Oh, well, I don't know.
They like killed off some characters from Space Marine 2 in like a Warhammer community post. And I don't know if people were upset, but they definitely noticed. So there was that. I thought it was funny because between that and all the legend stuff and all the retcon stuff, I was just like, oh, I can't not make a satire post about this, comparing it to Game of Thrones.
You should make a end of year memorandum like they do with the Oscars, like
Uh-huh.
all of the Warhammer, units that
Oh,
The people who aren't
that
with
left
us
or
us.
anymore.
like killed
Yeah.
off in the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Like that would be hysterical.
And put like what was that music where they would always like try to get money? It was like, was it Sarah McLachlan?
Oh
I
yeah, for
forget.
sure. Sarah McLachlan. Yeah.
Hmm. I will remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's it.
will
Let's do
remember.
that. Oh man, yeah, I'll have to. I'm definitely gonna do some end of year stuff for sure. All right, so I guess the big story, if you're looking forward to some of the Games Workshop Battle Force Christmas boxes this year, they are going to be probably just as tight as they were last year, unfortunately. So it looks like allocations are between 4 and 15 ish. There's rumors that the Sylvaneth box is like there's no allocation on it because nobody wants it because it's basically the same as a Spearhead. But on the rest of them, as you would imagine, the Space Marines one's super allocated, the Chaos one's super allocated, with stuff like the Emperor's Children and Votan, and I think the Death Korps Krieg wasn't allocated, but it wasn't as bad. So it might have been like around 10. I forget exactly. We put all the numbers in the post. I pulled a bunch of stores and correlated the information, and unfortunately, it looks like they're going to be a little bit tougher, and they are 250 this year, up from 240 last year. But what isn't up from last year, right? So keep on the lookout for those. Those will hit pre-order on this Saturday for delivery. Now, remember, normally street dates are Saturdays for Games Workshop products, but this generally on Black Friday, the street date is actual Friday itself, which is the 28th. So it'll be a little bit different for these products. And if I had a guess, next week will probably be the pre-order for the new what is it? The Warhammer Quest game, Dark Water Man Bear Pig miniature, crazy Nurgle Demon Prince guy. Doesn't tickle my pickle, but it might be some people out there looking forward to it. Hopefully that isn't terribly allocated, but it would be hilarious if it isn't allocated and all this stuff the week before suddenly was. I don't know. How does it work? How does Games Workshop work? Nobody knows. So the previews were over the weekend, and I don't know how everyone else feels, but I watched them obviously, and we had to do our opinion on them, and I don't think they were too bad. I mean, it was cool to see Titus kind of coming back and getting some miniatures and the whole. We don't know all the details in the 500 Worlds campaign, if there's going to be multiple books like Arcs of Omen was, where we got a Primarch. It could be, but this one's a little different because there's multiple books in the slipcase, so it's really kind of hard to tell at this point. But we do know the Nightbringer is going to be part of it, which I don't know how Matt feels, but that model looks pretty sick.
Amazing. Looks phenomenal. Also, that other Necron character, I think it's probably going to be like the it's kind of like infantry assault based one. I was like, that's hot.
Yeah, the new guy.
So both of them are
Nemesis or
spot
something.
on. So I think what we're going to see more from Games Workshop now is maybe not whole units. It's just going to be like characters or special things, kind of pushing the envelope a little bit, keeping some flavor. But I don't think we're going to have like whole revamps. Some things have been kind of brought up to par, or it's been eliminated, or legend. Yeah.
Well, I believe they call that streamlining.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Breaking my heart.
Yes. I think a lot of people are lamenting on all the units we have lost over this edition, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, I could see where they're because for the Xeno stuff they showed more characters, and we didn't see a whole lot of units themselves. And maybe that's going to be a thing for 11th when they start going back through and putting out new books and putting out new things like that. Because we really, if you think about it, in 10th, like you said, we really didn't see a lot of new units, air quotes, right? We saw kind of some kill team stuff come out with a new upgrade sprue and then kind of get folded into 40K in a couple of cases. We saw some new Ultramarine units, I guess, but for the most part, a lot of it was characters. We saw some new Death Korps. We saw some new Emperor's Children. Votan got a couple new units. But overall, I think over the past 3 years, I don't know, just off the fly, I don't feel like it was a typical like here's a whole bunch of new units, right? Um, so it's kind of hard to say what the revamps will be. There's obviously a lot of whispers out there, for like Dark Eldar or Jakari rather, and you know, uh, I don't think a whole lot on the Xeno side, squad wise. Maybe Karandris, maybe some Eldar stuff that still has yet to be updated, but a lot of stuff is kind of in a good place, I suppose. But I guess we'll just kind of see. It's like we either they either update it or they legends it at this point, right? So there isn't a whole lot of like in between. At
That's
some
a good point
point.
about Kill Team, how they like, like Eldar striking Scorpions or
Mhm.
Mandrakes, that they got snuck in through a Kill Team. So
Yep.
like kind of like getting two birds with one stone. I mean, here's your Kill Team army. Oh, and hey, 40K, you also have your update this way. So that's a clever way of packaging it. So I think that you're right. That's where we got squads, but vehicles,
Yes.
bigger stuff like monsters. Now you just have positioned that to like Age of Sigmar, which has these amazing monsters. And you're like, wow, like why are Age of Sigmar armies always better painted? I'm like, because their canvas of a model is that
Yep.
much more robust, and so everyone kind of knows that 40K can't really hang. Also, 40K is supposed to be more grim, darker themes, things like that. So not as
Oh
good.
yeah.
But that's a good point about the Kilton boxes.
Yeah, I definitely I definitely think for the longest time, like Sigmar always has the best sculpts and the best like design aesthetic. Um and you're right, they're just it's just the models are just a big canvas, right? And it's really cool to see a dope painted Sigmar army compared to a dope painted 40K army. I don't feel like there's any comparison between the two. And um it's just really fun to see, but it seems like Sigmar's kind of getting less and less, and the community kind of fractured between that and old world, unfortunately. But I mean, either way, that stuff's really nice to see. So we got a lot of previews over the weekend. We don't quite know a whole lot about roadmaps. Big question mark, like when the next preview might be. Traditionally, they do a little teaser on Christmas Day or Boxing Day the next day. Sometimes we get new character reveals for New Year's, but they just gave us a bunch of character reveals instead of roadmaps this time. So I'm not really sure where that's all going to kind of fall in. Maybe we'll get more on the campaigns and stuff. And remember, there isn't an LVO in February, so not really sure what that. Maybe we're just going to skip ahead to previews, big previews at Adepticon again, and not LVO. It's
Mm.
it's really hard to say. They're kind of defaulting to it like every Monday we get some sort of preview for some game sort of thing. Um, but I don't know if we're going to get any cohesive stuff. Maybe right around the holidays, and then it might be a big jump to March. So anyways, lots of stuff in the pipeline still, and obviously a reboot is out there somewhere in the next 6 to 8 months, I suppose. I don't know if anybody saw, but we did a post on it. The original Harry the Hammer artwork that Blanche did back in 1983 is going up for auction in Christie's of London on December 11th. And it's from Brian Ansel's private collection. He's passed away sadly. But he owned Games Workshop. He bought it from the folks that founded it back in the 70s, and he owned it in the 90s until Kirby bought it ish from him. And so it's coming out of his collection, going up for auction. It's gonna be really interesting. The opening bid's £400,000 for this piece of artwork. So it's going to be really cool to see how in the public, the meta, the mainstream Warhammer really is right now, because I feel like this is going to be the litmus test, right? And to see what this thing ends up going for. But yeah, that's something to look forward to here in December. And of course, there will be a bunch of Black Friday sales going on. Many of them are going on right now. We have a whole like a roundup post with everybody that's reported in. A bunch more are going up on Friday and next Monday and next Friday as well. I have a I have a whole email inbox full of, hey, my sale starts here, my sale starts here. We're still working on our sale, but we'll get it to you. So there's gonna be a lot of sales out there. So if you're willing to come off some coin, there's probably gonna be some good pickups. And we are working on a holiday gift guide, which we might talk a little bit more about next week. Where I basically went through and I kind of came up with like the top 20 things that I felt like was the dopest hobby items slash Warhammer adjacent things that you could ask for the holidays. So, it's not necessarily like, hey, I play knights, I want a knight, because that's easy. You just give them the GW gift guide. But like, if you're like, there's a specific thing, like I want an airbrush, I want a compressor, I want a gaming table, kind of the best of the best, in my opinion. And maybe we'll get more into the best of the best when we talk to um, Matt in depth here soon. But look for that here next week if you're looking for something a little different, maybe not some minis this holidays.
Facts. So let me talk on bourbon and bolters for a minute before the commercial break. So I think we're almost filled up. And we're looking at, so there's not that many tickets left. We've got some big names coming that I'm not going to share just because they told me not to.
Oh.
But not just to advertise out to the world, because they were looking for that more intimate experience that our events bring in. And now I'm hearing about some bourbon sponsorships.
I'm working on it. It seems appropriate.
I mean, it's looking wild. We got Brad Chester.
Lot of history there. Maybe we'll talk more about it.
But yeah, once we lock it in, and Brad Chester is out of control, losing his mind right now. Excited, he wants to do like. He was just telling Arthur today he wants to do like you get a like multiple coaching sessions per day for 7 days or 5 days. Like he wants to go so hard. Like he sent me like a personal text the other day. He was like, "Remember how it used to be when we used to do these events?" He's like, "That's what I want to do." I was like, "Brad,
go for it,
bro. Slow down, man. You were in the hospital last week." You know what I'm saying?
So he gets better the drunker he gets, to Brett's credit. So
that is true.
That sweet spot of like, give him a bottle of wine, give him a few hours, he'll be surprised. He'll make you a pro. Like,
yeah, he will literally make you a god at 40K. Like because
pros go to him for coaching.
Literally,
he knows his stuff.
So prolific. So it's getting close, right? Like, so we're only going to be able to talk about this one more time on the podcast. The event's going to be in January. Me and Arthur are going out to Rob's house. We're going to be getting our van, swinging by the crib, picking up a bunch of our materials, then going off to the Outer Banks. So we're going to also have lots of photography, lots of videos. Like, I can't wait to post all this shit on Instagram. So bourbonandbolters.com. That's our luxury wargaming event. You've heard me talking about it all for months. That's my pitch. Commercial break, then Q&A with the man. And we're back. So I was looking through the show notes, which are amazing. Thank you, Rob. But I want to actually jump into the Q&A first, just to know I can get through some of these, because some of these are really good. And so, Matt, I'm going to start throwing some Q&As at you. And, Rob, obviously feel free to chime in on these too and add to anything Matt says. So the legendary Matt Aaron, 3-time hobby track winner, Renaissance man, KR Quinn, he asks, TMM or NMM, which is harder to really do well?
Both can be hard. If you do true metallic metal the right way, it can be just as hard as non-metallic metal. I think non-metallic metal is harder to lock in because of the different styles. Like, your eye has to read it as being metallic, and that can be really hard to jump in. But once you figure out the lighting, once you figure out the volumes, it's actually not so bad. So don't be turned off by non-metallic metal. Kevin Grubbs, who I mentioned, just brought, I think he knocked it out in 6 months, entire Custodes non-metallic metal army, and he's never done it before. And he's kept practicing and practicing and practicing. And okay, once he did his first few models, he dialed it in, he figured it out. So, but also if you go to the Golden Demon, you can use true metallic metals. And if you do it right, it could be just as hard. So it kind of depends on what your final outcome is and what your final look you want to be. Both can be challenging, but I think the initial entry, probably non-metallic metal to get to the same level, takes probably a little bit more work. And then even more, if you do rusty non-metallic metal, that's insane. But you can do rusty true metallic metal pretty easy. So it kind of just depends.
Rob, how do you feel about that statement?
Yes. I mean, they're they're both crazy hard styles to master or even make look good. But if you have a specific like project in mind, sometimes it's definitely worth it, you know. Like I could see Matt doing it on, you know,
So
his Necrons.
doing like true metal, like most people can access that with just GW metals in a pot and
Right.
washes, and you can access a really fine end result with that. I think as Matt said though, you can't typically apply that same degree of ease to the NMM. Like, but when you go to that next tier, right? That next tier, you're basically doing the same techniques as a NMM on a TMM, just with glitter paint, right? So like it ends up
Yeah.
being almost as hard. Like
Like
and
with metallic paint, your bright silver, to make it the bright, it goes bright silver. Where do I go? You actually mix a little bit of white in,
Mhm.
Yeah.
surprisingly enough. So
Yeah,
you're actually throwing in a little bit of color paint in there too.
yeah.
And then also with non-metallic
But
metal,
then you might lose some of your glitter, which is the whole point. So then you might have to like access like a metallic medium, like from some other manufacturer. So like it can get just as complex.
Yeah.
this is
Yeah,
the rabbit hole we're down. Like where do you want to go with this? Because it could be hard either way.
yeah.
I think just starting with not, I think if I was to start, do true metallic metal, once you develop a flavor for things, then graduate up to non-metallic metal. And then from there, you can kind of pick your own adventure.
Yeah, because non-metal, or excuse me, non-metal metallic, whatever you want to call it, it's hard to wrap your head around it because like you have to use colors that you wouldn't normally associate with, like if you're trying to do gold, you generally got to use yellows and browns, right? So like you're like, what? And it's like it's just it's a different way of thinking
Yeah,
too.
which a
So
lot of people don't normally think that way as hobbyists because we're used to like the triad methodology where everyone's kind of
yeah.
laying things out, which is what's dope about like Monument signature paints, where like they have like Flameon miniatures, with
Oh
his
yeah.
like suite of yellows, ochres, and browns that he uses for his golds, and it's like, oh shit, thanks, you just did it for like so. I think we're going into a world where we're going to see more NMM triads and quartets, and it's going to make I think
Hmm.
a lot easier access. But let me jump to the next The next question is from Thags. He says, fastest painting method. I know Kenny is lightning on the airbrush,
Huh.
but I can't keep up. Is what he says. What's your fastest painting method? Did this man just answer
Yeah.
it?
I mean, he did, because it depends on what you like. If you're just trying to get to tabletop, just just do slap chop. That's the quickest way I think to get okay army. Now I would always say don't do that. It's cheating. What I mean by that is like just you were talking about like using contrast paints. It's kind of like a clutch, the way that they're intended to be used. However, to your points you made previous, is that contrast, if you use them more like a heavy wash, not exactly how they're intended, but because they're so pigmented and their finish is so like satin matte, that you actually can use them as a heavy wash instead of just being all over. Then you're using it as a more intended. So I mean, that's how I got
But even
started
if
with.
you were slap chopping, you pull your airbrush out.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
I
Hmm.
do black base on everything,
yeah.
then do
Hmm.
a white, and then I just do airbrushes, classic, take it to 11, wash it back down to 10,
Yep.
Mhm.
like always, and then you cut in the detail, and then that you throw it on
And
you
I
throw
think
it on
that's the
anywhere,
big
don't get the
takeaway
same.
because we all know slap chop is pretty fast. You're saying it's even faster with an airbrush, guys, because a lot of dudes are doing
Mhm.
slap chop with just like basic, like hobo zenithal highlighting that looks kind of crappy. You know, like if you actually start with a baller zenithal highlight via your baller airbrush technique, your end
Yep.
result is just as fast, if not faster, and better. So
And
airbrush is always the answer to this question, right?
Exactly. And
well,
the feedback you get from contrast paint, like if you slap chop, everyone does slap chop, it gets it on the table fast, but then you have remorse. Like I could have done way better if I spent a little more time with the airbrush on
well,
it.
yeah, I was just gonna mention that too. Like, but keep in mind too, like once you do the slap chop, you get the contrast on it, get your matte coat, seal it all up nice and neat. You can always come back and go in and actually do your traditional like line highlighting, because that's just kind of a guide. Like it's a heavy
It's true.
wash or a wash, like you say, but like that's what I prefer. And lately, that's kind of more of my paint style, because I don't have these big 3 or 4 hour like paint sessions. Like I'll be able to like throw down some highlights, seal it, or let it dry, seal it the next day, throw down some more or wash, seal it. So I've got like maybe less than an hour here and there, like over a week's time to get it to work it all the way up. So for me, that's fine. It works good for me. And then I can come back and I can start focusing on, character models and go from there.
Yeah. But you also airbrush. You laid it out loud.
Yeah, it's
So
airbrush.
the fastest hobby technique is still, or tool or strategy is still your airbrushing, no matter what
Well, you could
methodology you
blast it.
subscribe to.
Yeah, you could blast it, with primers, zenithal and stuff. It's not going to be the same, but you could.
A lot of people who go like who are just like they have an airbrush and they just like haven't evolved to use it for that like the next tier, and
Mhm.
so put some time into learning how to use it at the next tier, and you'll be just as fast or not faster and have a better result. It always leads to faster, right? So I teach people who have like the answer is I just use it for basing and priming and like zenithal, and then when they're done with my airbrush class, they're like what they're doing with the same tool they were doing an hour ago is so much more 11, as Matt said, that if you were still to move back to your methodology of slap chop, you would have such a better result and you're even faster now,
Mhm.
right? So it's just still that airbrush always is going to be the answer there. Moving on to Aaron, he says, Aaron KB says, I'd love to hear Matt's feedback on display board meta. I'm an avid
Mm.
painter, but have a tough time being as inspired to do the over the top display boards that are the high bar now. So he wants to hear your feedback on that. Your thoughts on
Hmm.
that.
Oh man, how much time do we have? So there's kind of running joke between me and some of the fellows. We call it the display board wars, because that's because
Nice.
it's what you're seeing now, right? It's like my
Yep.
army, I can push it, but what's catching people from 6 feet away to bring them in 6 inches to catch all your detail, right? Especially if you're doing a really high detail army, but very dark, like a grim dark style, or like Death Watch is all black, right? But it can be packed full of details, but you might miss it unless you're drawn in. So the display board wars, I think, have also been seen even in Golden Demon. If you look at
Mm.
the bases, they don't use normal bases anymore. It's a plinth or it's the
Mhm.
storytelling. So I like how display boards can be an exemplar of the story you're trying to sell with your army. I'm even helping out running a display board course here. Um, Out in New Jersey, just be it's my first kind of I would say coaching session, but it's kind of a class I'm gonna be helping out with because of the same topics. I thought it was very apropos that you brought it up.
Yeah, yeah.
Is
Well,
that it was
plug it if there's still tickets available. Plug it to
Yeah.
your man right here.
Yeah, so it's Rogue Gaming. It used to be associated with Mythicos out there in New Jersey. So Rogue Gaming is kind of really community based and bringing everyone together. I can send you guys a link if you want. And so a buddy of mine, Eric, is going to be running it. He's very well plugged into the scene for the Golden Demons and understands like how you want to make it for like a display for a single model or for a display for a whole army. And so he asked
Mm.
if I want to help out, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Somebody did it for me, so I'm just kind of paying it back. But I think display boards are really an undiscovered country of canvas. That hey, how are we going to make this? And you can make it as big as you want or as small as you want. Some events mostly limit you to 2 feet by 2 feet, horizontally, and but in terms of vertical, you can go as high as you want. So that's where I'm like, okay.
That's
And I
preferred.
travel and I travel to different events, so I gotta fit it in this giant tough box that I can, so my display can only be 22 by 22 or collapse into this box when I fly with it to go to different events. But if you're driving, you can go as high as you want. So it really depends. There's this different methodology. Some people say that your display board's way too big, you lose the army. I'm like, that's true, but Adepticon bigger is better. But other GTs, you want to make it where you can enjoy. My coach, John Margiotta, he used to always say, like, you want to be able to take a meal of your model when it comes to display board. If it's too big, you're gonna get overwhelmed and overfull and you're not gonna enjoy it. But if you make it, you can bite into it, chew into it a little bit, really catch all the pieces. Your eye can flow through it. I think it's really important. So I think when it comes to display boards, they're very important. That's probably why I got third at Worlds, is because some armies were just as well painted, and yet my display board really popped, whereas others were just like new
Mm-hmm.
that with a few elements. And so I think you really want to put some effort in your display board if you have time. So again, get your army base coated, get your washes on, put them on the base, get them tabletop ready, and cut back on the highlights, as Kenny and Rob always says. But then also you're now, hey, with my display board, how am I creating the story for a judge to see what kind of world does my army live in? Is it a snow world like Space Wolves? Is it Necron Outpost? Is it a death world of Krieg? Really try to make your display board, because it's really going to emphasize your army. It'll make your army look much better. You don't even have anything to paint it differently. It creates an emotional connection, a story with your army that you can have a lot of fun with. And then you can get wild with LED lights, fog machines,
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of cool stuff. But the thing is to start with two levels. I would suggest you have a base level and some background second level. Start there and see what we can go with. And there's also some materials you can use that are relatively cheap to make it look like an amazing display board. And I'm also being mindful of like flying. A lot of us fly to events or
Mm.
need to pack it. Hey, how can I pack my army and display board in one carry-on? Because you never check your army ever, ever check your army. You always fly with it, make sure it fits under the seat, something like that. Always make sure. So those are kind of the considerations you have when making a display board, or what are my limitations, and then also what's my imagination limit. And that's where I think you go around to various events and you see different people and like, okay, they did that, I like that, I like that. Okay, let me go ahead and try to execute mine. And you get feedback from others about how they did theirs, and you incorporate that into what you're doing for yours. So moral of the story is display boards, I think, are very important for telling the story of your army. The better story you tell, the probably better score you're going to get, because you're making that connection and drawing the judge. Your display board should also draw you to certain models, your eye line.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also the models that you're probably putting a lot of work in. So you're also helping the judge guide their eye without forcing them.
Good answer. Walter Garvey
Juicy.
asks, any advice on etiquette for new players to tourneys, or just any advice or footnotes in general?
Hmm.
Aaron?
Yeah. I would say not to be intimidated. Go to a new event, meet someone new, because guess what? Hey, we all play Warhammer. I guess we're all just became best friends. You'll be surprised how quickly you make friends at events. So I would say just go in there, kind of open-minded, realizing, set your expectations. I'm gonna say low, but just kind of be manageable. Like, hey, some people here are really good at what they do, and some people are just waiting to grab a beer, for lunch or after the game, just to talk and socialize. And I think that's where the fun stuff is for Warhammer, is like, hey, how are we talking after the event? Hey, telling the stories about the games for the day, or then start talking about life experience, people's stories. So I think when you go to a new event, just be open. There's probably way more new players there than the pros. There's maybe one or two pros there, but then you have 99% of you are just there to have a good time, and kind of be open to things that, there's no perfect game of Warhammer played. So realizing there people aren't there really just like beat up on other people, as opposed to, hey, we've all been
Hmm.
here. And you can even say that. Like I said all the time at Worlds, like, hey, this is my best painted army. It's not the most competitive, but I'm gonna try to give you a fair game. And they're like, oh, okay, now I understand. So kind of also framing that with your opponent, not that you're a walkover, but that like, hey, you could use a little bit of help. Would that be okay? And then if you always ask for help, you'll typically get it in terms of gameplay, because you're not going to learn anything as a new player just getting beat up every game. But if you tell a person, hey, I'm new, I'd like to learn something, you'll have a good game, and they might teach you a few things. And you keep doing that, you better yourself every little bit every day. It could go a long way. So again, just know what to expect for the event, making sure you have all your rules down, maybe the missions being played, do a little bit of practice in your head about deployments, things like that. But just be confident that everyone else is there is probably there just to have a good time. And a lot of people there are probably pretty new.
Facts. Your boy Eric Scrivens, he tuned in too. He said, with both of you entering the first Golden Demon show the same year, are you worried about your arch rival Andrew Gagno is going to come behind you with a steel chair and get a higher award than you?
Absolutely.
Savage.
Yes and no. I think Gagno has really put his foot on the hobby, like full tilt. I think he's really leaned into it the same way he's been an amazing competitive player.
Mhm.
So yeah, so we'll
It's
see.
true.
Again, my first time entering. So again, you don't know what to expect. You'll be surprised. You could be a pro of 20 years entering stuff and getting finalist pins, and you can take your first crack at it and just luck. What they're looking for that year, you might scoot out with a commended entry, which is a big win. Every year it gets a little bit more competitive.
But what you're saying is you're tight friends with him, so you're not you would be happy for him if
Oh,
he,
hell yeah.
like,
Yeah, of
it's
course.
yeah, and I know, yeah, Eric is just making a funny joke, right?
Yeah.
But like it's I mean, that's how tight it is. Like it's not.
Yeah, I'm giving him a high five because guess what? If I won, guess who's the first person there to give me a high five?
Yeah.
Gagno, So
And I
Mhm.
that's
think
like our kind of community,
and I
right?
think
We're not
to
else
be
each other.
controversial, right, for just one moment, this is kind of the topic we've talked about for years, right? Like you guys come from the competition side, right?
Mhm.
The quote unquote competitive 40K players, the tournament players. And then you have this other subculture in our hobby, which are the painters. It's
Mhm.
always been that way. And the painters, quote unquote, hobbyists, right, tend to be adversarial toward the tournament players because
Yeah.
they've all had probably a bad experience where they got dick stomped at their friendly local game store and, went home and licked their wounds and were like, man, fuck those guys. Or maybe they actually ran into an asshole. Who knows? Shit like that happens. But what I
Mhm.
tell anyone is don't get like dissuade from competition, as Matt mentioned. You will find more camaraderie, I promise you, in the competitive scene than you will in the just hobby scene. And the hobby scene, no competition, the hobby no competition side versus the only
Mhm.
competition side has more camaraderie. Like you will see the high fives, you will see the friendships, you're meeting more people per second, you're making more connections per minute, period, when you're indulging in that. So don't limit yourself to one side of this, and especially not just the I have blinders on, I only paint mini side. Because you remember we mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
you can have as much fun as Matt's having, but you
Mhm.
only if you're also playing the game. That's the only way. And so now look, Matt gets to come into Golden Demon and have that fun too. He gets to have all the fun.
That's a whole different world.
Yeah, he gets to have all the fun, dude.
Yeah,
Yep.
but I'm gonna get mine. I'm like basically the equivalency is if I'm gonna basically be like a new player playing my first game of 40K going
Yep.
because it's such a like I'm gonna get like beat up and in a good way because it's a new challenge. I've done everything I can. Like
Well, they'll give you
competitive.
notes.
Mhm.
That's what's dope about it. Like they
Oh
give you,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. They do.
actually, like you always are asking for notes on everything. That's something I've always noticed about you coming to the doubles and stuff like that. And you've always
Mhm.
implement everything. I think I told you one year when you were doing your Nurgle World Tour.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, why didn't I get
That
best
was
painted?
dope army.
Why didn't I get like a higher painting score on this? And I was like, I said something like, your Nurgle army is completely maxed out painting as far as tabletop goes. Like nothing is
Yep.
better. But now that I have to like look at each one of your models individually, like using the Death Watch guy analogy, see that Death Watch army over there? Oh, you didn't see him because it's not that flashy, but I had to go over there and judge him. And then when I picked up his models, they were painted better than yours. You were like, fair enough. And so
Yeah.
then you started implementing more of that strategy into your painting because you realized a lot of your flash, style, what wasn't getting you that final check mark, right?
Mhm.
What did you do? You introduced that final layer of detail, it instantly like you didn't scoff at it, you didn't take any personal, you weren't taking it personal,
Mhm.
you're like, noted, sir. and
Yeah.
and and
No
and
Noted.
dang.
and you went and then you painted like a whole bunch of new demon princes and shit, and like new and like
Yep.
plague burst crawler, no, not plague burst crawlers, malefic blight haulers,
But yeah, yeah.
and like they were all like so clean and so edge highlighted up, but also had your flash. I was like, oh shit, dude, this is wild, dude. Like that's and so like I think you're gonna do well in Golden Demon. I think like you'll be able to evolve quickly
Oh yeah.
and rapidly through that because
Yeah,
you'll use all the techniques. You know,
that's
like
what's different about Golden Demon is that they give no feedback. So you just have to go out there and see where you land and try again, try again. And you can talk to some like, oh, you know, some pros. They'll give you some tips. But you're right. You always have to be open to feedback. Like I never
you'll
wanna
get
be
it. You'll
like,
get
"Why
it
did I
from
get
your new crew, right? You'll get it from the
Uh-huh.
Sam lenses, you know, of that crew, right? You just walk up to him, and be like, "Yo, tell me,
Yeah,
you know,
tell me what you know."
Yo,
yeah,
dog.
like
Yeah, so
tell me, wizard." Like,
tell me everything you know because it does change because there's no rubric. It's just what's going on, the
Mm-hmm.
general gleaming things that everyone needs to pick up on. But yeah, it's a new growth edge for me. I'm gonna kind of try it out. And you're right, you stay humble. You realize that, you know, there's other amazing painters out there, but if you go there like, oh, why did I win? You're just gonna piss off the judge and you're not gonna get any better as opposed to,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
what do you see that I don't see? I've been looking at this army for thousands and thousands of hours. What do you see? Oh, I'd like more of this. Okay, got it. And you do that.
yeah,
And you have time between each event to do that. You know, whether it's going from like a 10 to 11, you know, with my type of army, or it's going from, hey, I did all my base coats, did all my washes, I locked them in. Now I can play with my army. Now I have to go back and do all that highlight. So it is going back to your units and army and pushing them a little bit here, a little bit there. And it takes time. It takes time to learn the craft. It takes time to a brush sorry, an airbrush will never replace a brush, right? But you got
Mm-hmm.
to get the hours in to get good with that airbrush, just like you got to get hours in to get good with the brush. Same thing with your army. And no army is gonna be done in a day. You got to give yourself a long time. It took me 3 years to get my Death Guard army up to snuff. It took me 2 years to get this Necron off to snuff. So it takes a long time because we're doing other things in our lives, right? And also we get feedback or we're
Yeah.
growing. And that's the fun part is like, how is your army growing? How are you putting your time and effort? That's um the feedback that you get from others in terms of enhancing it. So that time on task is something you never take away. You go to a GW tournament, you're going to win a few games, lose a few games, but that's time you can never get back. But painting an army, you can always kind of hold on to those miniatures and those memories and those experiences. So definitely want to pull in
yeah.
different.
No one can take away the entertainment value that
Mm-hmm.
comes from like physical project completion. Like that's forever, man. Like, and that's what I love about this hobby and what you've been doing, and you consistently do year after year.
Yeah,
Like,
and it goes for painting or gentlemanship. Like, you know, be a good player. Hey, you know, Bradchester, could you show me some things in 5 minutes? You buy him a glass of wine, he'll be like, sure, okay, you know, and like, you know, gives you a
You
half
get
hour
10 minutes.
tutorial, you know, like covers everything, and like it's so you don't have to buy him a glass of wine because guess what? Someone did that for him someday,
Yep.
paying him back. Same thing with me, you know, whether it's watching the videos here, the Long War, or watching other players, you know, and then now I'm picking up stuff in terms of how to be a good player from, you know, Folger or Kyle or my buddy Eric. So you're picking up, you're always learning things. And I think if you're
Mm-hmm.
coachable, this hobby is limitless in a lot of ways. And you're just kind of exploring different frontiers. So you can kind of make your own adventure. And that's why Worlds was kind of my retirement. I retired from competitive hobby gaming. And so now it's just going to be like going to a big event, maybe a couple a year, like the team tournament type of stuff, or doing Golden Demon.
Mm-hmm.
I take my foot off the gas in that regard because I've done everything I want to do. But now I want to, you know, explore a new frontier in a lot of ways. And yet I'm sure I'll still like run into people and get asked a lot of questions or, you know, pay it back, you know, for free, just as a way of appreciating that again, like you guys always say, all ships rise with the tide. So as long as we're helping each other out and a little
Mm-hmm.
here, a little bit there, we want to grow this hobby for sure.
well said, brother. Well said. So we'll throw out links and stuff to your big workshop you're doing on display boards.
Mm-hmm.
Rob, take us out of here.
Oh, that's it. All right. My, how time flies. All right, so that's it for this one, y'all. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for being on the show with us tonight, Matt. For early access videos, exclusive content, and more, become a veteran of the Long War today.